Well, good evening, WNBA and LA Sparks fans. For the final time this offseason, welcome into a two-man show of record that is called The Guys with the Petition, folks, here on our Sparks Watch 2014 off-season recap show, folks. For the next 2 hours, we will recap the entire off-season that you may have already forgotten about, folks, in the past, about what occurred with the infamous 35-day wait during the past offseason, folks, but also welcome in, folks, LA Sparks 365 Network here, folks, your 24/7, 365 comprehensive home of the WNBA, and your two-time WNBA champion, Los Angeles Sparks. Good Thursday evening, folks, on the eve of the WNBA season. Cal McClure joining you folks here from a red-hot and still fire-burning San Diego, California, here at Studio 171. And that beef-kicking hangout is Chris Woodmansey from the Ann Studios up in Anaheim, California. Chris, good evening. The last time we talk about the off-season that was for the WNBA and the Sparks, man, on the eve of a 2014 season. How you doing, man?
Nothing much. I'm so freaking pumped up for the season tomorrow night. I'm so pumped up.
So again, folks, throughout our entire 2-hour show, folks, again, our format for the night will be like this. We'll go for an hour here from 9 to 10. We'll take a brief break and come back from 10 to 11. And that'll be the end of the Petition campaign show, folks. And then when we do come back with the Petition show, folks, it'll be a two-man show about the WNBA. And also, folks, we are going to be attempting to bring on one of our other co-organizers of the Petition, Shorty Mamba 24, and Tanisha Hardy on Twitter will be joining us tonight sometime soon. Okay, Chris, we have a lot of ground and a lot of time to cover here, man, throughout the entire course of our big night out here. But before that, man, we're sitting here, man, on May 15th, soon to be, man, only 3 hours away from the start of the 2014 WNBA season, the 18th in the league's history, man. I think we both break the scale with our excitement for the season, I think, right?
Yep.
So, again, folks, tomorrow night, Sparks and the Storm. No pregame coverage, folks. We'll have all of our postgame coverage immediately following the conclusion of tomorrow night's game here on the LA Sparks 365 network. Okay, Chris, we're going to dissect this entire off-season in perspective again, Chris, like we have in the past here on the Petition show, man. And basically, man, it was a very fulfilling, very rewarding, very tiring, but a job very well done over this past off-season to keep the Sparks in Los Angeles, Chris. Chris, we know about what occurred on December 31st of 2013 when President Vince Malcolm sent out an email to the Sparks employees saying that the team was up for sale and everyone that was with the franchise would be fired and released of their job. Chris, where were you, though, when you heard the first breaking news of the Sparks ownership group leaving initially back in December?
I want to say I think, at home, and I think I was watching, I forgot.
Chris, I think what I remember the best about this was December 31st was New Year's Eve, and I think I was home. And I think I was reading, Chris, through tweets. I want to say it was either the 31st or the first 2 days of January where we kind of first heard the news, Chris. And it was, what I can recall was, I believe, Chris, I first heard the news on January 2nd, the night where Candace Parker, Chris, finally came back to the U.S., took a brief time out from playing with UMMC Ekaterinburg over in Russia. She came back home to have her jersey retired, so she came back to L.A., flew to Chicago, see her folks, and then flew from there to Knoxville, Chris. And I believe I had just sat down on my couch because I think I had just gone back from walking my dog, to doing my normal, afternoon walk with Rodney down here. And I think I had just hopped on Twitter because I know that I knew I wouldn't be able to watch him on television because it wasn't on national TV. So I was going to see what was going to be happening involving Candace's retirement ceremony, Chris. So I was on Twitter, scrolling through, and then, when you kind of start seeing, Shorty, Tanisha, T-Wow, Vicky Russo, Jack Nick, and you start seeing, Chris, people that we have followed over the course of last season on Twitter saying, oh my God, I'm having a heart attack, or, a stroke, cardiac arrest. Because you kind of like, okay, something's not going right here if they're flipping out like this. Chris, I mean, when you were when you were browsing your Twitter feed, man, and you saw that, what was your gut telling you about what was going on with what you had seen from the fame on Twitter?
When I saw that, I was like, oh, great, what just happened? I thought like either removing or like we're folding or something like that.
Chris, initially I thought it was something in that regard, regarding the ownership, Chris, but I thought it was like something way worse, like like a player on the franchise possibly dipped out or something had occurred. And folks, we were joining the hangout briefly here by Shorty Mamba 24 on Twitter, but apparently she's having some internet problems, so we'll wait for her to hop back in here. But Chris, I think going back to my point here is, I thought it was way worse what I thought had happened with on January 2nd, folks, and we will welcome in our third person here, folks, in our hangout is Shorty Mamba 24 on Twitter, one of our co-organizers of the petition to keep the team in LA. Shorty, good evening. Thank you for joining us here on our first hour of the show. How's it hanging up there somewhere in Los Angeles, California?
I'm doing fine. It's pretty hot, as we all know, and thank you guys for having me as a guest again.
Shorty, absolutely. We were weighing options of bringing either you and or both of you, which would be yourself and Chernisha Hardy, onto the show because you were the two other organizers of this bad boy. But we kind of realized with Chernisha being on the East Coast, showtime would not have worked for her going to school tomorrow, so we decided just to bring you on here. But Shorty, we were just talking about you because you were one of the first few people, I think, that pretty much broke the news to the WNBA fans out there on Twitter, either on New Year's Eve or January 2nd, when Candace Parker did come back to have her number retired at Tennessee. And it was, I believe, and what I can recall, it was, seeing you and seeing Chernisha, T-Wow, and Vicky sort of flipping out and, going to the emergency room. Shorty, what can you tell us about your initial gut reaction to what you did hear about on January 2nd about the ownership group leaving the Sparks in the dust?
Oh my goodness! When I first saw a tweet from tweeting a news article saying that former owner Paula Madison had pulled out of her ownership with the team, there were just a million and one things running through my head. Our other pal, Chernisha, was on Twitter as well, and we were just freaking out, literally. I'm pretty sure you already heard this, but it was heart attacks, strokes, us going into cardiac arrest because we did not know at that time what would be the possible future outcome for this franchise. The league, we figured could step in and buy the team and run the team, or they'd find another owners, or the team would fold.
Chris, I believe, because Shorty, I just told the story that I think I just gotten back from walking my dog on that afternoon when we heard about the initial news of Paula Madison and the company leaving. And, and I told Chris just a few minutes before he hopped in here was, when you're reading through your Twitter feed and you're seeing people like you, like Chernisha, like T-Wow and Vicky that are, going into cardiac arrest, you're having heart attacks, you're having strokes and amnesia, something wasn't right. And initially I thought it was, something involving, either like a player on the team was, something happened to someone on the team perhaps, something involving that occurred. But then in the back of my mind I thought, okay, something involving the ownership here, knowing the WNBA, there's an ownership problem and something is going to have to happen. So we know about that. And of course the timing of it was not good, of course, and of course, Shorty, and we're going to go back to you, of course, we're going to use the ladies first rule here in the Hangouts again, folks, like we always do, we'll do whenever we do have our female companions in here. But again, Shorty, again, going back and rewatching Candace's speech at her retirement ceremony at Tennessee, you really could tell. I mean, she was, all happy and stuff and looking, looking gorgeous like she always does when she's off the court, Shorty. But something told everybody, whether they're a Sparks fan or not, that she was not all there 100% at TBA in Knoxville.
Yes, I definitely agree. Now we have to remember that even though the initial reports were released on January 2nd, it was actually, I'd say a few days ago on December 1st, when the players and front office staff were notified via email that the Williams Group Holdings, led by Paula Madison, was giving up her control of the team. So on December 31st, all of the players, of course, including Candace, knew about it. So that's why when she attended her ceremony at the University of Tennessee, even though she was happy, that they were retiring her jersey, you can tell that, something was not right. And that was because she had previously heard of this news of her, of the Sparks ownership withdrawn from the team.
Chris, going back to the first day of the initial news again, which was the email sent by President Malcolm out to the employees and players about the ownership situation, Chris. Because we know about what occurred on January 2nd with the real news from the LA Times and other sources about the ownership group flanking on the team, Chris. But in your view, man, again, kind of going back to that first day, man, what was your initial thought, when you heard about the employee notified about them being terminated because of the family of Paula Madison leaving the franchise in the dust?
I was like, probably gonna suck. Then I was like, oh, here we go again. Probably another franchise is probably gonna either fold or either move up to a different location.
So, guys, now that we got past December 31st and January 2nd, January 3rd, I believe, or January 4th, it was the January 3rd, I believe. I do not have my notes in front of me, folks, for Sports Watch from this past offseason. I wish I kind of did, but I think it's somewhere in my studio around here, somewhere laying around here. But we're going to skip ahead, guys, a few days to January 5th, which, of course, was or actually, we're going to go to the night of the early morning. We're going to go to about maybe 11:45 p.m., January 4th, before January 5th, that Saturday, when Chris and I, folks, did break the groundwork in the foundation for the petition campaign. Now, we have to go to Chris on this one first because he was the head honcho of this one. But, Chris, if you are there, I think your picture froze, it looked like, man. But if you're there, man, we were on FaceTime. We were looking at the situation, evaluating it, man. And what you can recall, okay, so Chris did hop out of the hangout here, folks, real quick. So I think you did have a small glitch there. But, Shorty, we'll go to you real quick here as soon as Chris hops back in. It looked like he had a bit of a internet malfunction at the worst possible time. But, Shorty, looking back from January 2nd to the 3rd, okay, so we know about the initial news of a team being put up for sale. So, Shorty, in your mind, in your mind, what was going through your mind when you, after, the days after you heard about the ownership group leaving? Was it like, oh God, here we go again, another franchise is going to fold in this league? Or, tell everyone out there, what was grinding your gears basically the days after January 2nd?
I would say after the 2nd, at this point in time, me and were on edge, basically trying to find out what was the league going to do now that this news has been released. What is their plan to do next? And we had heard from Laura Ritchie that she had talked to several other owners about taking over the team, and of course one of those owners was revealed the day after, on January 3rd, when it was announced that Joe LaCobe of the Golden State Warriors was interested in purchasing the team. So at that time, the league was doing an owner search, and we were all on edge trying to see how will that go, and what other teams, and what other owners besides him was looking into purchasing the team.
Shorty, what I can recall at least after that was I was calm, cool, collective, but then when you heard about the Warriors' involvement, you sort of got a little concerned, a little panicky, and a little bit, a little frazzled because, you're talking about possibly, moving the most famed, most recognizable, and most well-known and most well-respected WNBA franchise out of the city it's called home for 17, going on 18 years this upcoming season. And I mean, occurring out of this here, is I believe when I heard the first news of the Warriors' involvement was, I don't want to see this team move out of LA, but at the same time, Shorty, I actually felt pretty cool about if the Sparks did move because at least, Shorty, somebody out there showed the interest in the WNBA and the women's basketball game because I believe if no one else came forward the first few days after the sale, the Sparks would have folded if no one showed interest like Joe LaCobe did.
And I felt the same way. I mean, even though my first thought was hoping that the league would find owners here in Los Angeles to buy the team, I was okay with an alternate, which was Joe LaCobe possibly taking over the team, because I would rather for them to move and at least still be a franchise than for the league to announce the franchise is folded and the league having to hold a dispersal draft where they send the rest of the remaining teams in the WNBA. And just a quick little tidbit: if the worst would have happened and the league would have had to hold a dispersal draft, Candace Parker, being the franchise star of the Sparks, would have been awarded to the Connecticut Sun, who had the number one pick in this year's draft. So I definitely did not want that to happen, and I'm pretty sure all of Sparks fam did not want that to happen. So we're glad that there was a good result in the end.
Yeah, I mean, it was a blessing in disguise. I will say that here. Folks, by the way, Chris Mancy, his iPod overheated, may come in sometime later, but I need to get him. We need him in here, though, folks, because this is, what's going on here. Just sending out a quick text to him to say, get back in here as soon as possible because we need you in here. But again, Shorty, looking at the big picture involving the Warriors situation here with them being involved again, I mean, sure, some of the fans out there weren't fully acceptable of the Warriors' involvement here, but again, I think pending if there was no interest from someone outside of LA or somebody else, and there was no one else interested following the first maybe 4 to 7 days after the team was put up for sale, I think they would have folded, and they would be dead in the water and buried and gone. But Shorty, like I told Chris a couple times, is I could not have seen Candace Parker wearing a different team's jersey, either Connecticut or even Phoenix, for that matter. She would have went to the Mercury in some oddball reason, perhaps. But I think a lot of people couldn't I think Shorty. I think fans of the opposing franchises, like Rashad Jackson of Minnesota and a few of our other good friends out there on Twitter that are part of our WNBA fan base, they probably just Shorty could. I mean, they'd be scratching their heads like, how is Candace Parker not playing for the Sparks? I don't think that they could wrap that around their head at any time soon.
And I'd say behalf on all of WNBA fans, I mean, the Sparks folding would have not been a good sign for the league overall. I mean, it's been years, and so many media pundits have, been predicting the WNBA's demise, because of low attendance and low TV ratings and things like that. So a demise of the Sparks franchise would have definitely flared up those talks again amongst sports writers and media pundits saying and predicting the demise of the WNBA.
I think everyone out there, Shorty, has been sort of, hoping and praying to the good Lord that the WNBA demises so they can talk about more relevant sports, but it's not going to happen for the next 10, 15, 20, 25, maybe 30 years for all that I know of, at least, because this league is going to be sustainable for a long time at this point in time as well. Just in there that this league, folks, will not be going anywhere anytime soon. I mean, staying with this topic, folks, and we're trying to get Chris Mancy back in there, folks. I mean, he's having a problem with his iPod, and I don't see why I can't hop in on his smartphone right now. But he keeps saying okay. But we need him in here, folks. We are going to be talking about a petition right now. So just give me a second here, folks. Just gotta tell him to get in here at this point in time. By the way, folks, I am actually still monitoring the fire situation down here in San Diego, but my local news has actually not come back on with talk about the fires yet. But again, folks, please keep the city of San Diego in your thoughts and prayers as we still are trying to put these fires to bed here finally at this point in time. So we're going to finally, folks, hopefully Chris can hop in here sometime soon. I know he's having problems, folks, but I'm trying my best to get him back in the hangout here because his iPod, again, had a temperature overheating issue just a few minutes ago. But Shorty, we'll stay with you for a while here until Chris gets back in here, and when he does get back in here, we'll go back to our starting three here. But Shorty, Chris and I finally came to grips about very late January 4th to start our petition campaign to at least, Shorty, voice the opinion of the LA Sparks fan base that the fan base is still here and wants the team to stay in Los Angeles. And again, folks, to reiterate here, this was actually my idea for the petition, but Chris had started texting me word questions about 2 a.m. the next morning, and then I said, because it looked like he had already started it, because he was asking me questions about who you trying to petition with this ongoing effort, or who are you trying to recruit for this. So when I saw those photos next morning, folks, I said, okay, he started it. I'll let him finish it because he's already started it. There's no need for me to say, hey, stop, let me take care of this so we can get out there. But Shorty, we came to grips about 11:45, 11:50 at night on January 4th about the petition because we had talked about it and we wanted it more so. Shorty, this was used more so, in my view at least, as a notice to the league that the Sparks fan base is still here. And we're going to fight to the end to keep our franchise in Los Angeles, whether the league wants to do it or not.
I agree. I mean, the petition was definitely a good initiative that you and Chris started up, and it's just all of us representing everyone and let the league know, and everyone stand by this team. And even though we are a minority league, we still wanted our voices heard, and we wanted to show support for the franchise, and letting the league know that at least put in the efforts to try to find new owners that will keep the team in Los Angeles, because we were Sparks Nation. They did not want a relocation, and we definitely didn't want the franchise disbanded altogether. So the petition represented all of the voices of Sparks Nation to please help and find new owners.
Folks, again, the petition opened up shop on January 4th, 2014. And we got it off and rolling, folks, January 4th, and then the following day is really when the Warriors began to express their interest on January 5th. They expressed their interest on January 5th about the franchise and them possibly moving the franchise from LA to the Bay Area. And the first day, folks, of our petition campaign, we hit a few speed bumps, folks. We only got about 19 or 20 people to sign our first day on the job. And then, the next few days were a bit slow, and then they slowly picked up the pace, folks. And, Jordy, I know that you were a part of our little effort here to sort of do this, but what do you think the challenges were for all four of us, you, me, Shorty, Yumi, Chris, and Tranisha trying to get this petition off the ground in the early stages of the effort?
I would say it. It was challenging for us to, try to spread it around, spread the news to just about anybody and everyone in all of the women's basketball world and beyond, like the local news media around here in Los Angeles, who was willing to retweet the link to their followers. And during that time when we were spreading the word, we got a lot of good responses from a lot of people inside the women's basketball world, from women's basketball sites like Squish Appeal and Hoop Feed, Sue Favor of Hoopism, and we had a lot of love from the players, Candace Parker, former Sparks, Marissa Coleman, retweeted the link, and then we had a few legends up in there like Tina Thompson and the great Cynthia Cooper, who retweeted the link, and we also had our very own DJ Mowski to retweet the petition to everyone. Just spreading it around, trying to get everyone to sign the petition and spread it around to get the word out to try to keep this team up and going.
Shorty, Chris and I save us a lot, and we have here on the Petition Show during the off season here was, from our side of the spectrum, folks, being the male sports fan on the outside looking in at the female side of the sports world here was, Shorty, we say it a lot, I say it a lot at least because I think it's true here, is when we first started the petition, we sent out the link the first time, it was spinning in my head that this is a crazy and very stupid idea. Now, folks, the only reason why I say it's a crazy idea is because this petition was made by two guys, and it's the reason why it's called The Guys with the Petition. So it was crazy, Shorty, and on one side because it was two guy sports fans trying to rescue a WNBA franchise. And I thought it was stupid in a lot of senses, too, because the reason why I say it was a stupid idea too, Shorty, is, I thought with this petition going around that we would become the laughing stock, of American pro sports because two guys were trying to save a league that no one really cares about. It's been a doormat for people to come in, wipe their feet off on, and then go watch a more relevant sport in their view for the past 17 going on 18 years, this upcoming tomorrow night when the season tips off across the country. And Shorty, that was my view at least. And Shorty, I know that it might be tough, Shorty, but if you could at least kind of put yourself in our shoes for a second, do you agree at all with that aspect of this being a crazy and kind of stupid idea at the same time, from Chris and myself's point of view at least, being the guy fans watching the WNBA at all?
I'd say it was an interesting notion, but I actually love the fact, and this is what made it special, that it was guys starting a petition and trying to save the league. The WNBA has been around now, going into its 18th year, and so far, I'd say it's majority of the male sports fan base who has been giving it a hard time. So to see that, the petition was created by some diehard fans, and not just diehard fans, but diehard male fans, it was just spectacular to see. And, the WNBA has been trying for years to, get that male target, that 18 to 34 male demographic for years. And so far, they're progressing and, getting in some males here and there yearly. But, just to see that it was males who actually, was trying to save the league, I think it was pretty good. It was a pretty good idea for you guys to do it, and I most certainly love it. I don't think it was crazy or out of the way. It was really good to do this.
Folks, by the way, in case you're wondering, Chris Woodmansey will rejoin us in a second, folks. Two things. iPod overheated. he's burning hot, so he went and took a ice-cold shower. So he will join us here, folks, sometime shortly as we approach the halfway mark here, folks, of our first hour, folks. But again, at 10 o'clock, we'll have hour number 2 here at the Petition Show for the last time before we talk about the WNBA season opening up tomorrow night at 7 o'clock here on the Sparks 365 Network. Shorty, you know, again, we just talked about, you know, again, trying to get the male demographic involved here, Shorty, you know, with the WNBA, and appreciate the kind words about, you know, trying to get that male demographic involved in the league, because I think they could use it. I mean, it's, in my view, Shorty, the male demographic is going to be going up sometime soon, because, I mean, if people continue to watch, you know, women's boxing or women's MMA, and, you know, they go all goo-goo and gog about that, they can certainly watch the WNBA as well, whether they like it or not. But staying with the ongoing effort, though, Shorty, so, I mean, we're off and rolling here and, you know, stuff like that. Shorty, we hit the 1,000 signature mark in a 10-day span. We opened the petition on the 4th of January, and Shorty, to know that we hit 1,000 people in not even a week and a half. You know, 10 days, it was all it took to get 1,000 people. You know, because we will say it, folks, like normal here. I'll say it at least, but again, Shorty, when we really started this crazy, stupid idea that was the Sparks petition, you know, we thought it would only get maybe a handful of people to support. You know, maybe 5, 10, 20 people at most, maybe. But Shorty, 1,000 people though in 10 days is still what Chris and I still talk about and still marvel at even to this day.
My initial thoughts about the amount of supporters, I thought it would at least possibly get up to maybe 5,000, but I never, it did, and it was pretty great to see, you know, all of the Sparks fam, and not just the Sparks fam, but WNBA fam as a whole. And we even had a couple of supporters who were not WNBA connected, but they cited that they did not want to see another LA franchise leave the city, so that's why they signed the petition. And I'll say one of the things that intensified the amount of the supporters, and the reason why it went up so quickly, is because if I could recall, on January 12th is when we started to hear the news that the ownership of the Warriors, led by Joe LaCobe, and the WNBA front office, led by Laura Ritchie, was closing in on making a deal, in that the Warriors were looking to acquire the team within the next 2 to 3 weeks. So when that news was released, I mean, Sparks fam and everyone just quickly went straight to the petition to show their support, because they really thought that, you know, at that point in time, it was the last straw, and they was trying to, you know, put in their last efforts, as they thought, to try to save the franchise.
Shorty, I mean, in that span, though, with the petition link, again, you know that Chris and I were in a few ongoing articles posted on SwishAppeal.com and across other women's basketball forums and blogs. And Shorty, you know, I still to this day am in touch here and there with Albert Lee, who is the main writer for the Sparks Watch 2014 saga, and we have followed each other back on Twitter since. I've talked to him here and there a few times, here and there and stuff like that. And Shorty, you know, I really would like to thank, you know, the guys over at SwishAppeal.com, Albert, James, and Nate, because they did one hell of a job, Shorty, in keeping us, the fan base, about what they heard. Because Shorty, I would say a lot. It was 35 days of complete silence. You know, the volume was turned all the way down to 0 from the WNBA because there was no news from the Sparks. Their Twitter account got hacked. The WNBA didn't bother to post anything on the website or on Twitter about it, and it was basically those 3 guys on SwishAppeal.com, Shorty, that really kept us in the loop. So, I mean, if it wasn't for those guys, we wouldn't know what was going on. And I mean, in your mind, how much of a role did James, Nate, and Albert over there play for the fan base to know what was going on with the team?
I would say they played a big role with their series that started up whole ownership during the whole ownership search with their series titled Sparks Watch, and they just kept the fans posted on different ideas and different scenarios that would eventually end up happening. Like there was an article posted of the possibility of them playing in a different arena outside of Staples Center because the cost of Staples Center might be a little much. So they came up with other scenarios for them playing in other arenas. Also, there could have been a possibility of Coach Ross not returning, so they created an article of other possible candidates that might take over and coach for the team if Carol Ross was not detained. Also, just about what Joe LaCote might do if he take over the team, and where would they play if they were to move to the Bay Area? Probably the SAP Center, probably in the Oracle, or other nearby arenas in the Bay Area. So, they kept us all posted with their Sparks Watch, and they did one heck of a job of, at least giving fans something to look forward while waiting to hear, what the league was going to eventually do.
Shorty, I think the Bay Area Breakers, which is the fictional name I've given the team if they were to move to the Bay Area because I thought it had a good fit. I think they would have played more than likely. If this was the Warriors running the show, I think they would have played it at the Oracle Arena, I think, perhaps. But then again, they could have played at the SAP Center or the Cal Palace in San Francisco somewhere, so you really never know where they could have played. Looking back again over the petition here, folks, again, with over 1,170 people signed this thing. But Shorty, the thing that I always, Chris and I still love and we still talk about a lot is just about how everybody, regardless of if you're a Sparks fan, you're rooted for, if you're a Sparks fan, a Phoenix fan, Seattle fan, Lynx fan, it doesn't matter who you were, where you're from, Shorty, just how the entire league, the fan base of the Shorty of every team in the league, came to our aid. And again, I cannot stress it enough, Shorty, but this is why I have enjoyed the WNBA more so than any other pro league, because there's really nothing, Shorty, that goes wrong here. I mean, because we kind of realize at the end of the day that, bashing someone on the opposing team or bashing someone's favorite team in a league like this, Shorty, really won't get us anywhere. And this is basically one big, happy, breathing, smiling family, 24/7. 365, Shorty. What was your thought about the other franchises coming to the Sparks' rescue? Considering, too, Shorty, our big rivals, too, like the Mercury and the Lynx, also came to our aid as well.
I love that those other franchises showed support to the Sparks during this crazy time, because even though, we have had long and tough rivalries with those franchises, as in the Storm, Phoenix. I mean, at the end of the day, this is a minority league, so we all stick together, because we all stick together and, show support for each other, because, yes, we are a very small league. And like I said, all of the WNBA fan base showed love, especially, I would say, fans of the New York Liberty, who showed the most love out of everyone. And that was definitely great to see, because as everyone can recall, the LA Sparks and the New York Liberty were the two starting inaugural teams that kicked off on the very first game of the league starting up. So to have that other inaugural team in the New York Liberty show a lot of love to, their rivals on the West Coast, it was pretty great to see.
Shorty, I'm going to keep going back to this point until, I'm probably, like incapacitated and discombobulated, Shorty, but I'm yet to see, Shorty, any sort of anything that would go on between two fans or a group of fans in a other league that is not the WNBA, Shorty, because we all get it that, any sort, anything, involving, bashing somebody because they root for one team or bashing their team, Shorty, it just seems like we get it that, there's really no room for that at all. I mean, I know it's probably going to happen here and there, Shorty, but it's not blown out of proportion like it is, with the Dodgers and Giants in baseball, or, a big football rivalry, Shorty, or the Lakers and the Celtics. I mean, because, Shorty, we all realize that we're smart to know, Shorty, this kind of stuff really doesn't get us anywhere, and that's why I've really appreciated, and I say it again all the time, too, is, I appreciate every single fan, Shorty, of every other opposing franchise because of how close-knit this league is as far as the fans go, because, again, we know about our status. We're not going to be, on the upper tier of sports programming anytime soon, and, from talking with Rashad Jackson on Twitter or a few other fans of the Stars and the Mystics, Shorty, the combo's been really, really awesome and really fun, and, I just can't say enough about how good, and how awesome this fan base, Shorty, is, and it's just really good to see that there's a league out there that really almost has zero tolerance for someone, saying something bad about someone else or about an opposing team.
Yeah, most definitely. I mean, when we have, our rivalries within the WNBA, fans, we argue, fuss a little bit, but it never gets as hectic as some fan of opposing team beats up on another fan, or someone going as far as shooting another fan of, a rival franchise. So it never gets that bad, and I always appreciate the league for at least having their rivalries within, but still keeping everything contained, so it won't get insane and things like that.
Absolutely, and there's really no need to risk somebody's life over a sporting event, which is never good in baseball and in football and a few other pro sports. But Shorty, back on the petition campaign here again. Again, Shorty, 1,170 is a number that's going to be stuck in my mind until I'm getting buried in my grave, and and I'm up in seventh heaven. Is 1,170 signatures on a WNBA fan-based petition. Shorty, in your mind, what was your rough estimate or rough number you thought of for this petition as far as the number of signatures on this petition?
I'd say at most to 500 to 700, but I never thought it would exceed over 1,000. So that was really surprising to see and really great to see. Like I said, everyone from all of the other franchises plus non-WNBA fans all coming together to show their support in keeping this great flagship franchise in the WNBA.
And above all, in Los Angeles, California. The guys with the petition here, folks, two-man show right now. Cal McClurg and Shorty Mamba 24 on Twitter. Chris Mancy will rejoin us here, folks, sometime sooner in our next hour when we wrap up our petition campaign efforts here, folks, here on the LA Sparks 365 Network here, folks. You guys can tweet into the show at LA Sparks 365 with the hashtag TWTP, hashtag TGWTP. So, Shorty, we talked about a lot here, but also I am going to go back here and rehash again the outside influence or the outside help, and above all, Shorty, from players and former players of this league, which I thought was a far-fetched idea of having players help out with a fan-run petition, which I thought would not happen anytime soon. But again, Shorty, looking at the big picture, Candace Parker, the MVP, Marissa Coleman, Tina Thompson, Cynthia Cooper, I believe Ticha Penicheiro also helped out in some fashion. EMJ, I believe Tamika Catchings helped out in a small role. And above all, Shorty, Ramona Shelburne of ESPNLA.com also helped, along with DJ Mulsky and CJ Simpson. Shorty, did you at all think that there would be some sort of outside help from somebody other than from either players, alumni, media, like what we saw with these great, ambassadors to the women's basketball game at all?
I expected maybe a few to sign, but I wasn't expecting the amount that eventually did sign, and also throw in the broadcast analysts inside TWC Studios. The coach Dave Miller also passed along the petition, but just to see everyone inside the women's basketball world come out and support the petition. All your followers on their timeline. It was great seeing, the women's basketball community as a whole, showing their love and support to the Sparks. Uh, a 10th franchise in WNBA League history depart from the league.
Shorty, I thought it was very far-fetched for us to get some sort of player involvement with this petition campaign. Reason being because, I thought it'd be strange to have players and alumni side with the fans for one time. But, Shorty, when you think of Candace Parker and Rissy Coleman, and above all, getting help from, Tina Thompson, from Cynthia Cooper, from Teacha Pinachero, possibly also from Tamika Catchings, and Delisha Milton-Jones, among other people. Those are people, Shorty, that are well known and well respected in the WNBA and women's pro basketball. And I thought it was just phenomenal too that Marissa Coleman and Delisha Milton-Jones retweeted, and then also Shorty replied back to the people that sent them saying, anything from the fans we will totally support 100%. So what do you make of that?
It was great that, they got involved. They've been longtime players of the league, so just to see them get involved in an initiative to, try to save the team, it was really great to see.
Folks, we are rejoining the hangout here by the main head honcho of the Spark Petition, Chris Manson, back at the Inner Studios in Anaheim, California. Chris, we were just talking about, getting the outside help from former players and alumni, Chris. In your mind at all, man, did you ever believe that we would get some sort of outside help from somebody other than the fans? But above all, Chris, to get so many great alumni and great players of the WNBA, did that ever cross your mind at all about player involvement in this petition?
No, I didn't. Didn't cross my mind about getting alumni and players. I thought we wouldn't even get no legend, no alumni. Just would have been probably just fans and maybe at least mostly probably just 500, and that's it.
Folks, the aftermath of the petition so far, we're going to talk about that in our next hour, about the aftermath after, post-petition campaign here, folks. But real quickly, since then, folks, I have been in contact with Tamika Catchings and Teacha Pinachero, courtesy of LinkedIn. We added each other back, and we have sort of talked a bit about the past offseason, a little bit here and there. So they have actually kept in contact with me after the petition campaign, and we'll talk about that, folks, in our next hour at 10 o'clock here on the Sports 5 Network. But, guys, going back to the magical day, quite literally, folks, of February 4th, when we heard the news, finally, of no one better, no one else does it better, folks, but who can? The Magic Man certainly can. Him and Mark Walter coming in to swoop in the 11th hour to rescue the LA Sparks from departure or contraction from the league. Of course, guys, before Magic saves the day, Shorty, we hear an article from Sue Favor of Hoopism, and she says that there may be a possible LA suitor to purchase the team and keep them in Los Angeles, Shorty. When you heard about that news, did you start jumping off the walls of your house at all, or what occurred in your mind?
I definitely did start bouncing off the walls and reflecting off the windows and things like that. But I definitely started seeing that it could have been possible because, you know, after initially hearing that the Warriors were looking to buy the team within 2 to 3 weeks, that threshold started to close, and we have not heard anything from the Warriors. So then that's when I started to, you know, think to myself, okay, it may be some truth ownership being involved in negotiations, because if they weren't, I believe the team would have been sold already. But because they weren't, you know, I start to definitely believe that there was an LA-based ownership group involved in negotiations.
Chris, I believe we were on FaceTime that night when we heard the news of the possible LA ownership, man. What was your reaction to hearing about the possible LA suitor for the Sparks in LA?
I was going crazy and thinking to myself, it was probably either the Lakers or the Clippers.
Folks, my short list of possible suitors for the Sparks ownership went as follows, ranked 1 through a few. My first one, folks, in my view, was Lisa Leslie in some fashion because she is the most well-known Sparks player and the most well-known WNBA player, so she was on my short list as well. Folks, Magic Johnson was on my list, but number 2 because I thought he would be more focused on the Dodgers, but I put him on there because now any time an LA franchise goes up for sale, you know he's going to be involved now because of all of his money. The Lakers, in my view, Jeannie Buss was on my list as well as the third person because folks forgot already, or just too ignorant out there, folks, but Jerry Buss did own the Lakers, the Kings, and own the LA Sparks, and they won the 2 titles under his ownership, 01 and 02. So I thought Jeannie would save the franchise to keep it in the family business. I thought Philip Anschutz of AEG, who owns Staples Center, was 4th on my list because they do own Staples Center and are minority owners of the Galaxy and the Kings. I don't think that they want that, and I don't think they will want their summer revenue of the Sparks team to leave the building and go somewhere else. And for all I know, folks, for all that I know, if Kiss can own a damn AFL team, why can't LA's best rock band, the Red Hot Chili Peppers, come in and save the day? So, Shorty, in your mind, who was on your short list of possible owners for the Sparks when you heard about the possible LA ownership group?
Well, I would say prior to hearing any LA-based ownership groups being involved in negotiations, my first thought was Joe LaCobe of the Warriors, and I thought that at first he was initially going to get them. After that, I can't really say I had any thoughts in anyone else. I mean, I will have to admit that Magic Johnson didn't really cross my mind. And when he did, I thought that he would be, you know, so focused on the Dodgers that he wouldn't care to, you know, deal with the WNBA. So that's why, in my mind, I never considered Magic, you know, back when everything was going down. But my first initial thoughts were Joe LaCobe, and then when I heard about the 2 other LA-based ownership groups involved in negotiations, I thought possibly that the Lakers contacted ownership group might have had a shot in getting it, but I'd say at the end of the day, the best ownership, you know, won the team, and that was Magic and Mark Walter of Guggenheim Partners.
Chris, who was on your short list of possible suitors? I already said my piece, man, between Lisa Leslie, Magic Johnson, the Lakers, and Jeannie Buss, AEG, or the Red Hot Chili Peppers, man. So what about yourself?
I thought probably, since we've seen him probably out of a lot of Sparks games, I thought maybe since he has a lot of money, almost money, I thought Floyd Mayweather. He's at a lot of Sparks games, maybe Jack Black maybe, and that's it.
And just to clean up on Iowa Nancy, Chris, it's Floyd Mayweather, not Merriweather, just to let you know about that real quick. But, guys, I mean, we did hear about the Lakers' contacts in contact with the league. Thanks a lot to Michael Alter, the owner and GM of the Chicago Sky out there, for helping out here with the Sparks. But Jordy, did it at all cross your mind, though, about possibly Jeannie Buss keeping the Sparks, bringing the Sparks back into the Buss family trust, perhaps, because they do own the Lakers? And I think, Jordy, that Jeannie would have done it more so for her dad's sake because he did own the Sparks at one point in time?
Possibly, but overall, I just couldn't see it. I couldn't see the Lakers just taking the Sparks under their wing. I think as of right now, they're more focused on trying to build back the Lakers from, you could say, the depths of mediocrity. So I think that's their focus right now. I know that they did not want to see the team fold or leave, and they did their part in trying to help by bringing in another LA-based ownership group that they were in contact with. But I was pretty sure that they weren't looking to take the team and bring it back under their whims.
Okay, Chris. The following days after we hear about the LA ownership groups, the Warriors finally pack up and leave and go back to the Bay Area, Chris. And Chris, to know that on the 1 month anniversary of the opening of the Petition, man, Magic and Mark bought the Sparks a whole month after the opening and creation of our Petition, man. Chris, you were on the phone with me at the OCTA bus stop coming home from work, I believe. And courtesy of our friends on Twitter, like Shorty and Trinisha and T-Wow and Vicky and Jack Nick, Chris, the news broke. Your reaction when I told you that the Sparks were staying in Los Angeles thanks to the Magic Man himself?
I was on the bus, standing up, and right when you told me that reaction, like you always make the edits, my jaw dropped and I didn't even say a word for like about, I want to say like a minute or 2 minutes or 5 minutes.
It was pretty silent, folks. It was pretty silent, folks, for about a minute on the phone. Wondering, but Shorty, when you heard the news of the Sparks staying in Los Angeles, what occurred at the Mamba residence up there in Los Angeles?
I'd say I was excited. I was over thrilled, happy to hear the news. I'd say, if I could recall, on that day, I was on Twitter and I saw a tweet from an LA reporter named Janice Parr, and she tweeted that there was going to be an article soon published within the next few minutes from Ramona Shelburne of ESPN LA that Magic Johnson was going to be the person to headline the purchase of the LA Sparks with Mark Walter. So when I saw that tweet, I was just like, wow, I went insane. I was like, yes, someone finally came to the aid of the Sparks and has purchased them, to keep them from being on the move to the Bay or folding. So yes, I was happy, excited. Sparks Nation was turned up on Twitter, and it was a great day for all of us.
Chris, it was funny that the day before the purchase of the Sparks that I was a guest writer for Albert Lee on switchfield.com on day 35 involving about how I got interested and got involved with women's basketball, folks. In case you're wondering, folks, I've been involved with this game for 10 years, so don't give me any crap about me not knowing about women's basketball. But Chris, I mean, did you kind of find it funny? We talk about irony all the time between you and me and a few other people, but pretty ironic that after one of the guys that was a organizer of the petition, he writes an article on the website and then boom, there's Magic Johnson buying the Sparks. How hilarious was that?
Yeah, just hilarious that happened.
So, folks, 1 hour in the books. 1 hour left to go, folks. Coming up next in our next hour of the show, the aftermath of the petition, Magic Johnson's press conference, Chris falling asleep on my show. The same day of the press conference, we're going to talk about, of course, folks, what we went through as far as heat goes, and, of course, getting ready for the 2014 season, folks. So don't go away. Hour 2 up next here. This is the LA Sparks 365 Network here, folks. The guys with the petition, the Sparks Watch 2014 off-season of mayhem recap show with Hour 2 coming up next right here on your home for the Sparks, the WNBA, LA Sparks 3, 65 Network. Don't go anywhere.